Hi everyone, this is Bima here and welcome to my Instagram live. I know it's been a while that we haven't done such kind of interaction, but I'm so happy to be here and bring you this personality, Rick Ornelas, who will be sharing something with us. And you do not want to miss this opportunity to connect with Rick Ornelas, who is the ultimate success coach, the founder of Ice Pack Chains, which is a community of those who want to spread positive change and elevate social impact. He's also the best-selling author for his book, 12th Hour of Heaven. So without further ado, let me give him an invitation so that he can join and share things with you about success. So here you go, Rick. I've sent you an invitation if that's popping in your notification. Hi,
There
Rick.
we are. Hi there, Fima. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited and nervous at the same time, but thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
I
Great to
just
be
wanted
here.
to confirm, is today your birthday?
Actually, it is, yes. It is my
Oh my.
birthday.
So I
Yes, it
got this
is.
notification in LinkedIn and I was like, wow, this has to be a wonderful opportunity to connect with you. And happy birthday, Rick.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, this was the best day, so why not?
And you're starting with the live and that also with me. That's a pleasure to have you here.
Well, I appreciate
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you
So
inviting me. Trying to get my lighting right. Yeah, there we go.
yeah,
So
it's
it's um
so
it's nighttime over there. What time is it?
so it's 6:45 here.
Wow. So this is my first live with Nepal or interview with Nepal.
That's great. And I hope you have more after this conversation.
Yeah,
So,
me too. Me too. It's on my bucket list of places to go.
wow. And I would be happy to have you and so, hospitality around it. Just name it.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
okay. So I think we can start and with some questions that we have already set for you. Maybe so there are different versions of success, right? People like to define it in a different way, in their own
Yeah.
way. But actually, how like should we or would you define success as in general?
Well, it goes back to what you just said a second ago, is that people define it in different ways. And and I think there's a lot of definitions for success that society throws out there. Society would say that you have to have financial success, you have to have wealth, or you have to have an accumulation of material goods, or you have to be able to do anything you want and never have to work. That you don't have to work, and that's some definition of success. But I think what's important for everyone to realize is that success really comes. It does come from your own definition to in many ways, because um, you can't you can't go based off of what society tells you is some definition of success, because I've worked with and known plenty of people that are highly wealthy and they're miserable. They have terrible family lives. They don't have good relationships with their spouses and children, and they're very unfulfilled. So what I've found in my life, and I've had different seasons in my life of success by societal definitions, right? Where I had wealth, or I had a big house, or I had lots of material items, and I think at this point in my life, as I'm 51 years old now today, at this point in my life, as I'm entering the second half of my life, Bima, that success is really where you have that sense of fulfillment, where you have that sense of happiness, and where you have that sense of purpose, that you're living a life filled with purpose, and doing things that you love on a daily basis. And when you have those things driving you, then it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you have $1 million in the bank or $1,000. You're still going to be content and happy and fulfilled. And that's the definition I like to look at. And the reason I say it depends on each individual is because my definition of happiness is going to be different than your definition of happiness, or anyone else that's watching. And And we have to understand that and really get in touch with that and know that all those things do really come from inside. They don't come from any external place.
Wow. Everything, yeah, that you said is, I think I really vibe with it, given the fact that it's a very on like different depending on the individual level. So now that you said that it's being very purposive with life and everything, right? But
Mhm.
as we move into life, like there are some doubts. We have our goals, right? That we write on and we worked on as well. But how do we become more, clear or have that clarity that we are moving to the right direction? So people have some doubts with if it's right or not. I do have that. And so where do you found this kind of connection that it's going to the right direction?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I did see your poll right before we hopped on where 60, I think it was 60% or 60 some odd percent people said they are looking for more clarity. So the people that responded, and then there was like 30% that said that it's complicated. You know, a very small percent said no in your poll. And so I know that's a challenge for a lot of people. And that was a challenge for me for many years, is that lack of clarity, that lack of, and it goes back to what I was just saying a minute ago. It's that lack of understanding your purpose, understanding what is really going to drive you on a daily basis. And what's worked for me to find clarity was one, to get in touch with deep inside, what is my purpose for life. And I've discovered my purpose to love and to give and to serve. And I wear it on a little bracelet right here that I wear every day that my wife wants me to get a tattoo, but I'm not a tattoo guy, so I just wear the bracelet instead. But she's like, why don't you get that on your wrist? And so not for me, but I wear the bracelet nonetheless. But that's my purpose. And I didn't discover that until just a few years back, you know, not all that long ago, right? In my time on this planet. And once I found that, things started to become a lot clearer. So I'd say that that's one, is if you can get some definition of what purpose is for yourself, what really drives you, what fulfills you, what gives you happiness. And for years, I sought that in those things that we were just discussing. I sought it in an accumulation of wealth. I sought it in material items. You know, we had a boat and we had an RV and we had a big house, and thought, oh yeah, those are all things that are gonna fill me. And you might get some brief moments of enjoyment out of those, like, hey, we're on the boat with the family, and so, you know, it's a vehicle for happiness, but it's not the driving factor, right? The variable was the time with my family that I spent enjoying out, you know, the lake and being outside in nature, and that valuable time that we all got together. And so one, it would be purpose, and then two, it would be to really be being present in the moment. When I was in that time that I was just discussing, I was always in a rush. I was always in a rush. I always wanted to get to the next thing and accomplish the next goal, and move up some invisible ladder that I thought was you know, that I was climbing. And I mean, you have you know, big mountains to climb where you live, but you know, I thought I'm just climbing, you know, forever climbing this mountain that I'm never getting to the top of. And once, when things started to become more clear, is when I started to be more present, when I started to live in the moment. When we were out on the lake with my family, and I'm not thinking about, oh, we better get back because it's got to be late and we have to get to this event. No, I'm just going to sit there and enjoy and not be rushed. And that took me decades of life. I tell you, that took me decades of life to learn how to be present in the moment and to not think. If it was, you know, as recent as probably 10 years ago, I might have been on a call with you and been distracted, doing other things, thinking about other things, not focused on you. And not only is that a disservice to you, but I never would get the benefits of this interaction and the beauty that comes from our interchange and, you know, in our dialogue. And that leads to a very unclear path. That leads to a very, you know, foggy life. And when you can just be from moment to moment, you see that, you know, each moment is a gift in time. And I've gotten a lot of clarity out of being present. And third one I'll add, which just goes with the being present, is gratitude, is being grateful for every one of those moments, no matter what they are. Because first I learned to be present. Okay, it was kind of a steps that I had to go through in my evolution of learning. First I learned, okay, I can be more present in everything, but then I wasn't always grateful for that time afterward. If it was quote unquote, a difficult time, yes, maybe I was present in that difficult time, suffering through it, but I wasn't grateful for the growth that came out of it. And I wasn't grateful for what I learned from going through that experience. And then once I added that on top of it, then things go into ultra focus. Then you're super focused on knowing, okay, I can grow in every experience. I'm going to learn from every experience. I'm going to enjoy every experience that I have. And I see my path, that I know I'm going in the right direction. Now, I may not always know that, the end is here. It may go here and here and here and here, but all that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as much because I'm not chasing that top of that mountain or the top of that ladder like I was before. Now I'm going to enjoy the journey. I'm just enjoying the journey along the way. And that's where I found a lot of clarity.
Wow, I think that those three things, it's something that we do understand, but then we do miss to work on. Especially the fact that being present and connecting with people. So when we say that being present and everything and being very grateful with what we have in life, especially being the millennial group or the Gen Z group that's in the meantime, we have this constant need for being validated, and that's one of the questions that popped up from the public section, which was like, why is there this constant need for validation? Why we need to appreciate each seconds of our life? Why we need to be present in that world? So how should we deal with it? I think that's something people here also face some problem with their life as well.
Yeah, and that's an excellent question, Bima, because it's a very challenging time that we live in. And that need for validation has really been a part of humanity going back to the time when we were living in caves, thousands of years ago, because of tribalism, because of us being a social tribe species where we always needed to be a part of our tribe, whatever it is, and to be outcast meant certain death. So we wanted that validation from the tribe in a certain sense to say, okay, I'm accepted. These are my people. We're going to help one another. We're going to protect one another. So that's ingrained in us first and foremost. So that's ingrained in us through evolution. Okay. Where it's gotten a lot worse is, for my generation, Gen X, sure, it was bad. There's always this kind of need for validation. You go through your formative years and you're a teenager and you're always comparing yourself to everyone else. Now it's been amplified, 1,000-fold with social media and, your generation being the digital generation and, growing up just constant comparison and everything, which makes it so much more challenging. And I empathize with younger generations, and I have 3 daughters that fall into Gen Z, and so it is very challenging. What I would say, I'd say that's really where it comes from. Those 2 components: 1, it's inherent in us, and then 2, that there's everything is just so available for everyone to see, right? Everyone's life is public. You can see everything on social media. There's no hiding anything. I'd say what can get you away from that feeling of constant validation is just being yourself. Just realizing that I don't need to put on a false front on social media. I don't need to take a selfie with the perfect lighting and the perfect makeup and the perfect everything. That I can be myself. And when you realize that you can be yourself in any situation, that's the most beautiful person that you are. That's you in your totality. And it's when in acting, there's when an actor is learning a character, they look at all facets of the character diamond. It's called the character diamond because a character has all facets. It has not just the bright shiny part on the top, but it has the flaws and the imperfections and the weaknesses. And if you think about any characters in movies, they all have flaws and they all have weaknesses, and then they overcome those, and that's how they, you get the happy ending at the end of the movie, right? You can think of that's like 95% of all movies and television and books. But my point is that what makes the brilliance of the character, the diamond, are all components, not just the fake component that they're showing on social media, or the one that they feel they have to present to their friends, but it's all aspects. And when you can get to being your authentic and genuine self, then you're freed from that need for constant validation. It no longer exists. And I've gotten to a point where, it's still there, present, because like I said, it's present in all of us, but it's really minimized for me. I'll hop on an interview. I don't have any makeup on or anything. I'll hop on an interview and do this right now. But it's it really is a freeing place to be. It is very, good place to live in.
Right. I think I also like had this opportunity to listen to your podcast where there's something like to do like not list,
Oh, the
and then
not to
where
do
you
list.
mentioned,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, where you mentioned, I really like that line where you said like people are so focused into themselves, they don't have time to focus with you, so you don't have to worry about like you are being the main center of attraction for everyone. And I think
Yeah.
that also puts some of the heavyweights on us, and then we can be ourselves and be more comfortable. So
Yeah.
that's what
That's
I
so
picked up
true.
from that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Bima, because it's so true. And that what I was referring to is called the spotlight effect, which is a psychologically researched phenomenon that they've reached. And you can, anyone that's watching this, Google it, look up the spotlight effect and some psychological research, and you'll see that it's actually been studied that people are focused on themselves. That people, but every single one of us, we're all focused on ourselves, and and that we don't have time, we don't have the brain capacity to be focused on everyone else, because we're just thinking about um, what we're going to say next, or how we're going to react, or how we're going to look, and all these things. So it's you really don't have something you don't have to worry about.
That's in fact true. So, so Rick and I made, if you don't know, guys, we met from through an online webinar that was held through One Health Lesson like a month ago, and that's how I connected with Rick. And I was like, should I connect? Should I not? I had this doubt, right? What would he say, and how would he perceive? And one of the webinar that we were talking was about networking, like
Hmm.
how we can make a good use of what we have around our environment and everything. And you mentioned this like top 20 connection tool, which I'm a fan
Yes.
of, and I have done that. And I feel
Awesome.
like,
Great.
yeah, and I feel like I filter the kind of person that I would require in my life in both mutual ways. So would you like to tell more about like how we can have the network and make it more net worthy? Because we live in a like the social media and everything, there's this pool of connection and we have to filter, right? So what is your words on that?
Yeah, that's I'm so glad that you brought that up, and that you took something that you learned and you put it to use. Because if you remember, at the end of that presentation, I shared that there would be three types of people. There's people that would not do anything. There's people that would take immediate action, and then there's people that maybe they remember a little bit of it down the road or something like that. So I applaud you for taking immediate action. That's
And
great.
that like the end thing like really sparked me. I think like you were challenging me and I was like, I have to do that.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly why I did it. That's exactly why I did it for the group, because I'm the same way. If someone had thrown that out there, then I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna be the one that that does it and puts it to use. And so I was hoping there would be individuals like you. So thank you. Um, but as far as the networking, it's funny, because when I was younger, my mother was always talking about networking, and go back to like the early 90s, and she would always be talking about networking. You have to network, you have to do this, and back then it would be you'd go to events and you'd meet people, and it was all in person, and it was just never for me. It was something I just didn't like. It always felt so fake. and so rehearsed, and it just wasn't for me. And I think why it wasn't for me at that time is because I wasn't my genuine self. I was feeling that I had to put on this false front, that I had to be someone else, that I could, try to portray, project myself being more successful than I was, or, not being genuine. And where I've gotten to the point now with so comfortable with who I am, and some of the things we talked about, like my definition of success, or, the lack of the need for, or minimizing the need for validation, is that it's de-stressed when it comes to networking. So now it's not, and I still fight it sometimes, honestly. I still fight where I think about those things like you said. It's like, oh, well, is this person really gonna, be interested or whatever? But now I just throw it out there. I just throw it out there. I mean, there's someone that I heard her on another podcast, doing another podcast interview, and it was great. And, she's someone that's a celebrity, and she, 1 million followers. And I thought the interview was so great, and it would be great for my podcast. I sent her a DM, and, this was like a week ago. Has she replied? No. Will she reply? Maybe. I don't know. But was it any harm in me throwing it out there? Was it any harm in me, seeking to build that relationship? No. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? She doesn't respond or doesn't say no. But guess what? That's right where I was before. So I've never, she never goes on the podcast. Well, I never would have known that without trying. And so one of the ways to do that is to just bring it down to a goal. So when I talked about that top 20 tool, and for those that are listening, it's just a tool where you list 20 people that you're maybe connected with in some way. Maybe you know them, maybe you're connected on social media, LinkedIn, something like that. And then, first you figure out a goal. So it would be figuring out what your goal is. So if your goal is, hey, I want to have this person on my podcast, or have them on a live like you're doing right now, and it's someone that may seem too far away, that you don't know, that you can't connect with, you think of 20 people that could possibly connect you or get you closer to connecting with that individual. And then you rate them in terms of how likely are they to be able to help you connect, and then also their willingness to be able to connect. And then you score, and you rank them accordingly. But using that, going through that exercise, you realize that you're a lot closer than you think. And you realize that there's nobody really in the world that you can't connect with if you put enough effort into it. And it may not be from your first list, but that may get you closer. And then you move to the next list, and to the next list, and to the next list. And, I have, one of the most, probably in the top 5 famous people in the world, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. He's someone I would love to connect with. I've always thought he does great work and everything. Would love to connect with him. Do I think I can? Yes. Could it be tomorrow? No. But knowing that there's nobody in this earth that you can't connect with, you just have to break it down small enough and just start seeing who can connect you one place closer, and one place closer, and one place closer. And then before you know it, you'll be connected to that individual.
In fact, something that we really need to work out, that filtering that kind of network that we really gonna use, than having this, lots of people and not finding value in it. And I really like the fact that you said, what worst can happen, right? If you reach out to that people, because the worst thing they can say is no. And and then you said, like, it's back to the point where you are in original place. And I think that's something we need to keep that in our mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when we talk about, finding this value and everything and networking, we also have this, we also live in this very complicated world now, that we seek something that benefits us. So people, I guess, is like very missing things and working on the kind of value. So they do miss working on like what's valuable things. So how do we deliver things that are valuable to others, and why should we do that in the first place itself?
Well, it really comes back to having that heart of service and giving. And there's the law of reciprocity is universal across, all major religions. You can call it the golden rule, or do unto others, or pay it forward, or the law of reciprocity. But that mentality of treating others the way that you wanted to be treated, it's a universal norm in society. And if there are things that we feel are valuable, then there's no reason to think that others aren't going to place value in those as well. And it really is having that giving heart, that you're always going out to serve others. And one of the kind of secrets that I've learned along my journey, and I do a lot of reading, and you'll read this, many successful people will say the same thing, is that one of the secrets to success is to give, is to serve. That those are some of the biggest secrets to success. Is so many people get in this lack mentality where they're like, oh, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. And when you just start going, okay, I'm going to give, then that's when everything starts turning around. And then you start receiving in abundance, and it comes back, tenfold. And that's where that value comes through, is just that you're just seeking to give and to just spread that value all over the place.
Rick, I'm very concerned about the fact when we give in life, and sometimes it can be very draining, right? I'm reading this book, The Boundary Boss by Terry Cole, where she says that there's a person that is high functioning codependent, and this person likes to give and give and give. But I think at certain time of the life, we reach at this point where we feel very drained, just because we're giving so much, and the opposite person is not reciprocating with us at the same level. So why, how can we do, or tailor our way through on that particular thing?
Yeah, that is a tough one, Bima, because I, for a long time, I was always the person that needed to get back. If I was going to give, then I wanted something back. That tit for tat kind of thing. I don't know if that's a saying in Nepal, but tit for tat kind of thing. That and even in my marriage, I mean, my wife and I, we just had our 26th wedding anniversary at the beginning of the month, and we've been married a long time. But early in our relationship, I always looked at it that way. Oh, well, if I'm going to do this and she needs to do this, or I'm going to give this and she needs to give that. And that's a terrible place to live from. That's a terrible place to be in a relationship. That's a terrible place to treat others. And it goes back to what I was saying in the last question, is it's not treating others the way you would want to be treated. It's just doing something for some reward, right? It's for just wanting some extrinsic reward. That's your motivation. And living in that extrinsically motivated space it's very unfulfilling. It's very short-lived. It's very short-sighted. And that doesn't get you to that clarity and purpose that we talked about earlier. It just keeps you in that, and even in the last answer, that lack, it keeps you in that lacking mentality. Oh, I need to get this. I need to get this. I'm doing this so I can get this, and I can get this. And you'll never be fulfilled. You'll never be happy. When you go into any situation, and I know it is challenging, especially if it's one-sided, where you're give, and the other person isn't reciprocating. First, I would say to change your focus, to give for the sake of giving, forgive for the joy that it brings to them, not for what you get in return. To give for even if it was like a tangible gift where you're physically giving them a gift. One of the old saying, it's better to give than to receive. I don't know where that originated, but one of the greatest joys that I get, like on my kids' birthdays or on Christmas or whenever, is when I give someone a gift and I see this big smile light up on their face, and they're so happy, and they open it and they're so overjoyed. And that, I'd take that any day over someone giving me something as a gift, because that fulfills me and just brings such joy to my heart. And it's that mentality of, hey, I'm giving this for what benefits they're going to get out of it. I don't care what I get out of it. It's totally, I want to help them and see, or, you know, give them some joy, or whatever it is you're giving to them, whether it's your time or a gift, or, you know, resources or whatever. It's to serve them, and doing that. That's, again, like I said just a minute ago, you'll find out you start getting back. You start getting back in many other ways. You know, maybe it's not even from that same person, and maybe, you know, maybe some other ways. And one little kind of caveat on before we wrap up this question is that I would watch out for those toxic relationships. So if there is, so, you know, there are times where, you know, you're giving, and that person is, they're not, you're not in a relationship with them. And when I mean any kind of relationship, right? It can be a partner, it can be a work relationship, it can be whatever. But there are people that are strictly takers, that suck the life out of you, that suck the energy out of you, that that are constantly seeing everything that they can get. You know, like that, you can call them energy vampires or emotional vampires. They're just sucking everything out of you. And you have to be careful for having those individuals in your life, because you can have the greatest heart, you can be the most giving individual, and it's not benefiting them in any certain way. You know, they're not doing anything good with what you're doing, you know. And those are people that you'd want to limit the association, or, you know, disassociate with them if you can, because they're going to end up having more of a negative effect on you in your life than a positive effect. Not because they're not giving you anything, but just because they're kind of taking that life force away from you.
Well, I think that's something that I really needed to hear in a long time, and that I need to reflect on as well. Two things: keep away with those kind of toxic people, and the other thing is finding the value and putting it into the world, but without, like, with this open and pure heart, and not with the intention of getting something back. Thank you so much for that, Rick. So we're moving on to another favorite topic of mine, which is productivity. So if you have any questions for Rick, please feel free to put that down in comment box. Also, to let you know, today is Rick's birthday, so if you want to wish him, you can do that. You can do that through the chat box. It's open for you guys. And maybe you can say that, hey, Rick, I wished you on your birthday, so I need to connect with you. Okay.
Thank you.
So let's go back to the productivity thing. So you have this community that I Spark Change, which has a huge number of followers, and I've been listening to the podcast, and one of my favorite was like to-do list and to-do not list, which I something really find interesting. But you have this, I know that you have this big community to work on that, but with time, does that productivity or does that motivation comes down? And how do you usually work on that? Like, how do you stay motivated and productive all the time?
Yeah, productivity has been a something I've worked on for so long, because I'm one of those people that can get easily distracted and my brain is always going, so I can easily lose focus, and you try to focus on 20 different things. And I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs that I work with and coach that it's the same way, you know, and you're saying it probably the same way for you. And so what works for me has been to drill down a lot of habits, a lot of productivity habits that will kind of narrow my time and narrow my focus, so I can't get distracted. So I'll work in, there's a very popular technique called the Pomodoro technique, where you work for chunks of time, and it's, you know, 25 minutes, and then you rest for 5, and you work for 25 minutes. And so I'll do those throughout the day, where I'll do, I do mine at 30 right now. And some people I have a friend that does, you know, I think he does his at 90 minutes. But I do the shorter ones because that works for me. But so I'd say that's a good, you know, a good hack to do some Pomodoros, and then just other habits that you can throw in your day to make sure that everything gets done. So there's a great book by Brian Tracy called Eat That Frog. And it comes from an old saying that Mark Twain was the first person to say it, that says if you eat a frog first thing in the morning, then everything you do the rest of the day will be easy, right? Because you're doing the worst thing you can possibly do at the beginning of the day. So I like to get those challenging things done first. So for example, in the morning, I mean, I'll do my journaling and my gratitude, and I work out, and all those things done. So then, hey, they're done. They're done. I'm going to make sure I don't miss them. You know, meditate, all that stuff is done. And so you can, block those things. If it's something that you don't like doing, then just, set that timer, knock it out, get started. That's a big one, is to just get started, because that analysis paralysis, a lot of us get frozen. Where I was, you're like, I'm sitting down to write and I want it to be perfect. So I procrastinate and I stall, and then I go into my email and I do something else. I do something else. But once you get started, you start getting into that flow and that rhythm, and you just keep going. And so if you can just get started, and one way I get started is by doing the Pomodoros, and then also by having things scheduled. So I schedule things out in my calendar. So I have the meditation is scheduled. The journaling is scheduled. I use, I'm doing this live on my iPhone, and a lot of people out there probably have an iPhone, or whatever phone you have. I have reminders that pop up all throughout the day. And these reminders pop up. Oh, it's time to do this. It's time to do this. It's time to do that. And those are just, hacks, whatever you want to call them, that I've implemented to force myself to do these things. And once you start doing them, then they become habits, and then, it just becomes second nature. But that's worked for me. There's tons of books on productivity, that people can read, but I've read a lot of them.
Yeah, maybe a lot of self-help books that
Yeah.
might find you helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we really need to work on that as well. The Pomodoro technique is something that I do for a while, and then the rest of the months it's not there. So, but then keeping on changing the kind of exercises to be more productive is something that we can use. So
Yeah.
we have almost come to the end of our session with Rick. We have lots of people saying happy birthday to you, Rick.
Thank you
Thank you
very
so
much, everybody. I didn't want to type because I don't want to get distracted, but thank
yeah.
you for your messages.
So Rick, we are discussing about success and clarity. So my last question for you would be finding that clarity in life and moving ahead. If that is something that you want to sum up everything that we had in this 40 minutes. So
Yeah.
what and how do we find the clarity in life, and how do we move on to get there?
Yeah, I would say it goes back to finding that fulfillment, finding that purpose, and there's there's some journaling exercises that anyone can really do to say, and it looks like someone has a question. Yeah, please type your question and we can see about answering it real quick. But it really comes down to, what do you enjoy doing the most? What brings you happiness and joy? When do you feel fulfilled? What drives you? What's the reason that you do what you do? And you can be someone that digs ditches all day, or someone that works in a factory. It doesn't matter. If you have a driving why as to what you do with why you do what you do. I mean, I've been in cities where I've had I was in New York a couple weeks ago, and I had some Uber drivers that were the happiest people that I encountered my whole time there. They loved what they did. They enjoyed it so much. And someone else may say, "Oh, that's not for me. That's not what I want to do." But I encountered people, I guarantee they had clarity. I guarantee that they were happy and fulfilled. And I would say to really seek and find that purpose, and then live with that passion and fire for life and everything you're doing. And to answer this question, this goes along with the same question, is Pratik is asking, how do you know you're on the right track? For me, that comes with that stillness, that presence, that meditation, that spirituality. So if you pray, whoever, if you're a spiritual person or a religious person, for me, I pray, and I ask God to give me clarity to know that I'm on the right track, and that's what works for me. Also, what works is that I know I'm doing something positive that's going to help others, and that I'm living that purpose of love, give, and serve. And that's how I know I'm on the right track. And so for you, Pratik, if you can identify your purpose, everything that you're doing is, and everything you do supports that purpose, then you're on the right track. And a further way to break it down, last thing I'll say is a further, and this speaks to productivity too, a further way to break it down that I do is every year I will, write my vision for the year. When maybe we come back and do a live, and I can, at the end of the year, and I can walk everybody through how to do that annual vision. But a big part of it is, what are my top 3 goals for the year? Not 20, not 10, 3. Top 3 goals. And then everything I'm doing during the year, each month I break it down again. Each week I break it down. Everything I do should support one of those 3 goals. If it doesn't, I'm not on the right track, right? Does doing this live support one of my goals to grow iSpark change and have more impact and spread positive change? Yes, right? So it's easy to say yes to Bima to do this live. But if someone said, hey, do you want to come on a live and talk about, I don't know, sports or something? Say, well, it's not, I'd love to help you. It's not really the topic that, that I'm an expert in. And so it doesn't support my 3 goals. So when you do that, that can help give you clarity and really know that you're on the right track. And what I do is, yes, I'll do it for the year, and then I'll break it down, like I said, every month. Okay, what are the things I'm doing this month that are supporting those 3? Every week, what are the things I'm doing this week that are supporting those 3? And then daily, what are the 3 things for today that support, my weekly goals?
Thank you so much for that, Rick, and also Pratik, my wonderful friend who had that question for us.
Yeah,
So we're almost
good
at the
question.
end. Yeah, so we're almost to the end, and I think we're short on time as well, given that fact that you have a very productive day ahead. So with that, any last message, Rick, for our listeners who have been being that constant for the last 45 minutes?
Yeah, first off, I'd just say thank you, Bima, for having me. Thank you to everyone that's joined us, whether you're still here or you joined us earlier, because that means a lot that you're here to to listen. And I would say that for all of you have the power to change the world, to impact others on an everyday basis, on an every minute basis. You have that ability, all of us. And so I would say the best way you're going to do that is find that purpose in your life, find what drives you, find your passion, and then go out and live it, and live it in a way that you support others, live it in a way that you provide value to others, and live it in a way that you are going to positively impact the world. And that's how we change the world. That's how we make the world the beautiful place. It already is a beautiful place, but that's how we make it more beautiful. And that's how we get rid of all the negativity and the atrocities of the world, is just by everybody believing that they play a role and that they can make a difference.
Thank you so much for that. And that is for you, Rick Ornelas. So I really appreciate this opportunity to connect with you and share your wisdom to my friends and audience that have been listening to us. It's a pleasure to connect with you, Rick. Thank you so much.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for having me again, Bima. And, love to do it again sometime. And, thank you to everyone that joined us. And if they haven't, just one last thing, if they haven't, like Bima, please check out the iSpark Change podcast. I mean, it's on Apple, Spotify. We've been on like GeoSan and Jana and some in other countries. So, hopefully you can listen where you are.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Rick. With that, I think we can end this live session for today. See you all. And again, Rick.
All right.
So thank you everyone for staying till this time. I really appreciate the fact that you stayed and stayed with us and then had the question for us as well. So to stay connected with Rick and iSpark Change, you can follow their Instagram, as well as you can see and check out their website. They have something amazing things on the website going on. Something that I would like to recommend is the entrepreneurial wanting to grow group, which is like you can book a free discovery call with Rick himself, and that would be a wonderful opportunity to connect with him. The other is you can also join their Facebook group, which is very interactive and communicative, and have there as well. And the other thing that I really found, let's say, valuable is what he has on the website is that free 25 simple transformational tips to a better you. So you might want to check out that with iSpark Chains and give it a shout out to them. Thank you so much for staying, and we would be back again with another live with some another personality that would speak of value, and that will be something that we'd like to learn further. So thank you so much for staying. Good night, good evening, bye-bye.